All right, folks, it is July 11th, 2024, and we have another critical update for you guys, live session that's going to take you through the current events. And oh boy, do we have something to talk about that's taking place here in the United States of America. And if you don't get tapped in right now, you are going to get left behind. While they are distracting us on the world stage, we are being embarrassed. We have a lot that's taking place behind the scenes as far as a new system, a level playing field, backed by real value, backed by real assets, backed by real production, no longer a participation trophy economy anymore. And this is why I say if you don't get tapped in, you're going to be left behind. We have so much to break down here tonight. Already dropped a couple updates earlier today. Got one that's going to be dropping first thing tomorrow morning. In this live conversation, though, I got a fully stacked show talking about XRP, CBDCs, and ETFs. And I thought about calling this one Ripple and XRP to the rescue or something along those lines, because the article that I'm going to show you is running through the ideas of Ripple and XRP, basically helping countries back their new CBDCs, their new national stablecoin, maybe setting a standard for stablecoins, Ripple with RLUSD coming to the XRP ledger. You do need XRP, by the way. They are issuing it on Ethereum as well. So we do note that. And once again, just more liquidity coming our way into this ecosystem, into a company in Ripple that has always said and had an alliance to XRP and wants to see positive growth for the XRP Ledger ecosystem. On top of that, it's an interesting conversation that Ripple can have with these countries, these treasuries, these central bankers that no one else in crypto is really having. See, other crypto companies are doing, a little bit of consulting, a little bit here and there. We've actually seen live trials underway with the XRP Ledger. This is no longer hypothetical. This is no longer just talking about it. This is partnerships with dozens of central banks. So we're going to be talking about the CBDCs, the ETFs that are coming, and stable coins as well. Remember, everybody gets turned off by CBDCs because we think of what's taking place over in China with their social credit score and that system. Versus in the rest of the world, we already are operating with a central bank digital currency when we actually look at how our money and financial system works. I mean, everything's digital these days. We have our cash. And for me, you guys already know what I do. When I want to be offline, when I want to have utility with no counterparty risk, you guys know what I'm doing. And I do it in old world money. I do it in new world money. I do it in physical. We do it in digital. And this is how I diversify to ride out through this storm, along with basically 90% of my focus and attention being on income generation for my businesses. That's the only way we get through this inflation. We're going to be talking about the inflation report that came out today. Inflation cooling. Fastest pace of cooling since 2020. We do a bunch of wordplay. We get the CNBC spin on it. We get Biden, who didn't even take advantage. I mean, I didn't listen to the whole conference here tonight, but I didn't hear him mention the inflation victory that he should have been touting, right? He should have been touting the inflation victory, which is what it's being declared. The inflation's cooling off. We'll talk about that here shortly. But folks, let's get right on into it. As an American, I start by laughing, and then I slowly just get upset, sad, and want to pray for this country when I watch what's taking place. How are you guys doing today, by the way? Let me check the chat. How's everybody doing tonight? If you guys haven't already, please make sure you're liking our content and helping me out by sharing it far and wide. I really do appreciate it. I try to put a lot of effort into my content. We dropped multiple videos today, new one dropping tomorrow morning, and I'm trying to keep it fresh for you guys and also tie in important pieces of this story to help us make important decisions when it comes to our investments, business, family, how to protect ourselves against what we're up against. Let's get right on into it. Like I said, we watched this. This is the front page of the Wall Street Journal, guys. Biden remains defiant, forceful about staying in race. And as you can see right here from the captions, it says, "You mixed up President Zelensky and Putin earlier today." Now, the only comment I'm going to make is that the captions being generated on the bottom of my screen, I could tell they were struggling to come up with the words that were coming out of Joe Biden. And we were all struggling to, put together any sort of coherent thought after articulating what he was trying to get across. What has already come across, not political. I'm not even going to mention Joe Biden for the rest of the show because it's just economic data now. This isn't politics. This is the program's not working out. Financial tsunami is here. I'm about to show you guys the market cap of the Magnificent Seven. How many hundreds of billions of market cap just seemingly vanished. Oh, wait, but somebody better tell the market cap bros. Because the market cap bros are the same ones that want to tell us that this is an inhibitor to the XRP price going to these higher levels that we talk of. Right? This is something that restrains and limits how high XRP can go. A market cap calculation, which is a valuation for a company based off the last traded price, and it's a figment of your imagination. It's a vanity metric at best. This is how I feel about market cap. It's not that it's fake. It's a calculation. It's one way to value. But how does it hold up? We thought that we had 3 trillion overall cryptocurrency market cap. Then we went sub 1 trillion. They thought they were, I'm going to show you how many hundred billions is how much more they thought they were worth at the start of today versus the end as the market's starting to correct. Despite inflation finally cooling. Victory for the Fed, they're holding that torch, claiming victory already. And the market, what did it do? Starts to fall off. The Magnificent Seven erased a combined 600 billion of market cap today. This comes as the S&P 500 just posted its worst daily performance since April 30th. The NASDAQ also fell nearly 2% today for the first time since April of 2024. Volatility is finally returning. And do you think it's just going to keep on going up, up, and away forever? Look out below, folks. I warned. I said crypto is the indicator. Bitcoin specifically. Bitcoin is the indicator. It topped out in March at 74,000, a little bit early this cycle. Is the broader macro bull run over? No. We're still going to continue this run into next year. But for now, we've topped. For now, we're getting cleared out, and it's an indicator, a front-running indicator of what's going to come to the stock market and the equity market. Take a look for yourself. Finance Lot reports the mega caps are selling off while micro caps are outperforming, exactly what we should see in the speculative blow-off top phase. This is how bubbles pop. This is how they blow up. Magnificent Seven bleeding out. Micro caps starting to say hello. We do have some real value down here. There is still value in our economy, in our stock market. It's just they've been overvalued. And we're about to, reshuffle the greatest transfer of wealth in world history. It's now being talked about on Fox Business. Fox Business talking about the greatest transfer of wealth in world history. Now they picked 84 trillion. I did a video earlier this week talking about 90 trillion. Other people say 60 trillion. I would argue that we're talking about a reset that's going to be readjusting, resetting, revaluing quadrillions of dollars worth of assets and flows of liquidity. And that's why I don't put a limit on how high XRP can go. Is because this reset's not an $80 trillion transfer of wealth from boomers to millennials. That's a drop in the bucket compared to what's going to be moving as we reset, restructure, revalue. And remember, not everybody's going to win. Not everybody's going to get on the right side. Not everybody's going to be able to reap the reward of positioning yourself correctly, taking massive action, following up with determination and a fight in you to get through what they have sent our way and what's coming our way, because we're not through it. That's why even when we're having successes, we have a nice adult beverage. Cheers to everyone who's joined us here tonight, wherever time it is where you're coming in from. Some of you guys, it's probably in the morning. But we appreciate a victory, appreciate a success, but then we understand, we take a look around, it's popping off right now. What we've been preparing for. Finally coming in, and the insiders see it as well. We've been watching them. NVIDIA CEO has sold 240,000 NVIDIA shares totaling 31 million. NVIDIA director has sold 785,000 shares totaling 104 million. So this is what's interesting about these insiders have been absolutely dumping and offloading, and the talking point has been that this is normal selling. Even though Jamie Dimon, remember, Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, he basically offloaded stock for the first time ever. That's what he did. He offloaded stock for the first time ever. This is followed up by Jeff Bezos joining that party. He just filed to sell another 400 million. Remember, he's already sold off 10 billion. He's already sold off 10 billion worth of stock, filing to sell off another 400 million. These guys have to report it all, right, as directors of these companies. And they've absolutely been offloading. Now, the inflation report came out today, and you already know the deal. While June CPI inflation is at 3%, inflation is much higher in many basic necessities, Kobesi letter reports. Car insurance inflation up to 20%. Guys, these levels have just been maintained for years. Transportation inflation at 9%, hospital services at 6.9%, car repair at 6%, electricity 5.9%, homeowner inflation 5.4%, rent inflation 5.1%, and food away from home inflation 4.1%. Inflation has been at or above 3% for 39 consecutive months now. This is the year over year. The year over year is still at 3%. Expectation was 3.1%. We beat Wall Street expectations. What is there to celebrate? Magnificent Seven sell-off. While June CPI was a move in the right direction, elevated inflation in key categories makes inflation much higher. We've also now had over 3 years of compounding inflation. Affordability is still getting worse. Take a sip of your adult beverage right now if you're riding out this storm with me, because no matter how much money you're making, you're feeling this. You can't take the family out to do nothing without dropping serious change these days. Cheers, everyone. And like I said, I like to laugh about it. I like to make a joke about it, but then you just go to being sad. Then you just, go to having a second and a third job and a side hustle, which is exactly what's happening. A record all-time high amount of hustlers in this country. And for the hustlers in the chat, let me know what side hustle, let me know what business you've started. For the other hustlers who are making and making their living working for somebody else, working for the man, let me know if you've been able to get promoted. Let me know if you've been able to take action to get more money coming in, even at your job, because this is critical. I've been saying not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody needs to have a business. With a side hustle along with your main job, focusing on your main job, how you can take on more responsibility, show up and actually provide value for your company that's trying to ride out this recession, and making sure that your company is going to ride out this recession and doing everything in your power to help make that happen. You're going to bring value and you're going to be able to get rewarded for it. And you need to, because we need more money to survive the inflation and to make our investments. Now, this is the budget of the US government. Remember, we're all trying to survive, and the average American has multiple credit cards up to here. Credit card debt's at all-time high. It's bad out there, guys. You got to understand this. But hey, one thing that we can acknowledge is that we're not in as bad as a fiscal house. Our house is still in more order than the U.S. government, which really isn't saying much at this point, but at least we got that victory. We got to get that one for us. U.S. spent a record $140 billion on debt interest in June, 30% of all tax revenues. This is larger than defense spending. This is how empires fall. Very simple. A reserve currency being challenged, a reserve currency being lost. A country no longer respected to the level at least that we once were. I'm sure we're still respected to some aspect, but to the level that we once were, far off, far from it, as our enemies watch the internal chaos within this country. And as I said in my update earlier, what we should be getting together on, the non-political, should be bipartisan issues like cryptocurrency legislation, that should be straightforward. We should already have that done, like many other countries do. But we can't come together on that. But when it's time to come together to, keep the money flowing through DC and to run these fiscal deficits, trillions of dollars per year, we come together for that. That's what they come together for. And as I dropped in my update earlier, they come together in full panic of the Basel III, quote unquote, endgame. Why is that? It's because the banking crisis is not over. It's because we're in the middle of the liquidity crisis, debt, currency, and liquidity crisis. This is why Ripple's on-demand liquidity solution is so important, is because you don't have to pre-fund. So the tens of trillions on the sidelines can actually be put to work. So it's like, hey, maybe it wouldn't be so hard to accept Basel III requirements that you actually have to have a little bit more capital on the sideline before you go take massive risk, quadrillions of derivatives. Maybe you should have, a little bit of collateral on the sidelines, right? It would be easier to adopt if you just used DLT technology, because it already goes right in that direction of being able to track and trace and follow the liquidity and removing the liquidity, right? And once again, it's the pushback of the rollout of this new financial system. You can see it. It's like they've still been trying to get their ducks in a row. As we reported earlier today, Goldman Sachs is going to be launching 3 tokenized funds by the end of this year. They're coming. There's a reason why they've been fudding this space. There's a reason why the Van Eck head of digital assets at Van Eck is saying that there's not interest, there's not demand, there's no counterparty for XRP. Okay, well, actually you have one of the most responsible issuers in the space in Ripple. You have one of the most responsible third parties or counterparties in the space with Ripple. That's an absolute joke. And XRP has been listed on most exchanges once again. There are still a few holdouts like Robinhood, which I just tie back to the XRP suppression once again. They've literally dumbed down the conversation about XRP so that they can push Solana meme coins, so that they can create these big Ponzi schemes. Remember, the ETH free pass was the foundational layer of the Ponzi scheme that they created with Ethereum. With little Vitalik at the very top, little Vitalik gets off the bus at the ETH conference in the pouring rain, and he comes in soaking wet to the ETH conference. Oh, what a relatable guy. Oh, what a character. And I just felt like that whole thing was staged, but maybe it was real. Vitalik, I'm sure he's a very nice guy. He's an absolute genius that's been involved in a scheme that goes way above him. Way above, the developer who's doing his part. It's incredible what they've been able to create, but we're starting to see it fall apart as far as this narrative, as far as this tether propped up market that we've been observing in the cryptocurrency space. Now, does this mean that XRP goes down? Yes. Why have I been showing you guys, as I, show big expectations for XRP, $10, $15, $20. Let's talk about crazy numbers. On my chart, what have I shown on my chart? XRP 45 to 40 cents. Bitcoin coming back down. I did not feel like we had any legs left in this run that we made up pre-halving. My prediction of the correction was early. It's now come through 28%, nearly half of the crash that we did in March of 2020. We have to go through this pain. We have to go through this struggle. We have to go through this staged activity, lawsuit, regulations, Elizabeth Warren, to get to the end goal of a new level playing field, a new system where the value is moved and represented on DLT technology. And there's no more excuses, right? There's no more playing games, right? And as I'm going to show you guys later in this episode, the positioning of Ripple with XRP to be able to help these countries in a unique position, while other crypto projects are ran by characters like Vitalik, which Vitalik's a genius, and the ETH gang, the ETH Team Vitalik, a great marketing ploy by sending him out in the pouring rain to show up to the ETH conference, making him look relatable. Vitalik's such a character. They push him out. I can just see it now. Okay, we're going to make you blend in with the people, right? Anyways, maybe it was legit. Nonetheless, respect it. It's just like Bitcoin. Respect it. But what's gotten us to this point? What's propped up the market to this point? That's what's coming and unraveling. And where are we positioned on the other side of that transition? Let's get into it, folks. Now, one more data point before we get to cryptocurrency. I wanted to share this with you guys real quick. Bloomberg, yen volatile after sharp gain as Kanda plays coy on an intervention. Okay. So Kanda, Masato Kanda, right here, in charge of the bank over there, Bank of Japan, Japan's top currency official, told reporters on Thursday night that he wasn't in a position to say if the move was intervention. He followed up with comments early Friday saying that given the yield gap between the US and Japan, speculation was probably behind the moves. There's a huge amount of trading right now, and the FX market's grown substantially, with bettors, gamblers, speculators showing up to bet against every form of value on this planet. That's where we're at. The tokenization of our financial system makes it even easier to gamble on every aspect and every value that's tokenized. And so, even in the traditional markets, though, what we're seeing right now is this move that happened today in the Japanese yen that some are questioning, did the central bank come in and intervene? Intervention reports and market jitters. So it was trading up here at like 162, and then it drops off here down below 158. And then it picked up once again before it dropped off again. I mean, just a massive movement and amount of volatility in the Japanese yen US dollar pair today. And we've already been talking about whether or not they were getting ready to intervene. Right? I mean, we've already seen them intervene earlier this year. And this is central banks around the world are having to intervene. This is why this session right here is going to be important. We're going to be talking about how these countries can actually back their CBDC stablecoin or whatever they're going to issue for their national currency, can actually be backed in a way to bring about a level playing field, or at least give them a chance on what hopefully will be a level playing field. Now, once again, this is where we're at in this space, guys. On TikTok, you can play around and do all sorts of crazy things. You can shill scam coins. It's not a problem. But if you warn that the Bitcoin crash is not over, the post gets removed for community guidelines. Just another day making content on TikTok. Now, I was able to post this short on YouTube, and I was able to post it on X, of course. And the thing is that I've noticed is it's just mayhem, silliness, crazy on TikTok. But I come out and I try to, and maybe it was how I started the video. I said, do you guys want to get cheap crypto? Which probably was not the way that I should have started it. And that's probably why it did get flagged. But nonetheless, what was I saying, right? I was saying that a Bitcoin correction's happening because Genesis is getting ready here to offload $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. We're not even finished with Germany, and now Genesis is selling. And it's all these bankruptcies that we're still going through. You see, the FTX was the first to go. We're not done. Silvergate and Silicon Valley Bank, these were the first banks to fall. We're not done. Tether is just one of many stablecoins that is getting delisted right now as we speak. Look at what's happening with the Europe regulations over there. But guys, this is Genesis on top of Germany, on top of the US government has a bunch of Bitcoin. And my question has been, if the overall consensus is that Bitcoin's going to 100,000 plus, why are they not holding on to these Bitcoin? Why are they not hodlers? What do they know? And or what tests are they performing right now? Okay, so let's get into the crypto update here. This is what I wanted to talk about with you guys tonight. Will this Ripple custody company aid CBDC efforts in struggling economies? This is from, let's see if I can get you right here. beincrypto.com. Sorry about that. I was just trying to adjust the screen there, but I'm just going to keep it here. Ignore all the crazy ads and nonsense on this webpage. beincrypto.com. This is a 3-minute read. I'm going to skim through it. Will this Ripple custody company aid CBDC efforts in struggling economies? Ripple Labs purchased Standard Custody and Trust, aiming to strengthen regulatory compliance as institutions explore tokenization. Acquiring Standard Custody secures Ripple's regulation in more jurisdictions and permits it to leverage current market conditions. Now, the main jurisdiction that I'm aware of is that New York DFS, Department of Financial Service license that Standard Custody has over there, along with maybe some other states. I actually need to go through and check where all Standard Custody does have licenses, because that would be interesting to know. Ripple's CBDC technology and custody acquisitions could empower tokenized asset-backed government money to transact on its ledger. Let's read that again. This could empower tokenized asset-backed government money to transact on its ledger. This is what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been talking about as far as the secret sauce that Ripple has with the strategic weapon of XRP. Their ability to offer the full suite of services here, from providing liquidity, some of the best liquidity in the world, to providing custody, and all of the technology solutions that you need to interoperate with the old system too. As we roll over, Ripple's ready to hold your hand. But we know that they also acquired Medico, which now, remember, is Ripple Custody. So the new platform, this is called Ripple Custody. Ripple provides regulated custody services to HSBC, BBVA, and Zodiac Custody through Medico. Ripple's president, Monica Long, confirmed custody partnerships dovetail with the company's long-term plans. So not only did they pick up these companies, they did pick up existing partners. That does include HSBC, which has been one of the first on Wall Street to tokenize gold. Now, this is an interesting mention here. They go on to say that Ripple CTO David Schwartz and its co-founder Arthur Brito pioneered the secure DLT for PolySign, the parent company of Standard Custody and Trust, which could satisfy these requirements. Now, I did the PolySign update. I question that technology. I question what is actually going on with PolySign. Excuse me. Once again, we are waiting for an update. We're supposed to get a town hall chat or a Q&A, I guess, with Jack McDonald and Link2. We are waiting for that right now. But with PolySign, from my understanding, well, I got to be careful with what I say. But anyways, they're not using PolySign's technology from what I am being told. What I'm being told is that the developers that were brought over from PolySign in the standard custody part of that company, the ones that are being brought over are actually using Medico's technology platform. So I'm being told that Medico's technology platform is being used, and how much of PolySign's platform is going to be used, we don't know. We don't know the fate of PolySign, and I'm very interested. And I'm sure that they are figuring things out behind the scenes right now as we speak, or maybe already have. We're just waiting for that announcement. But it's interesting that this article does mention that, right? David Schwartz and Arthur Brito pioneering PolySign with parent company Standard Custody and Trust. Well, yeah, that could help, but it looks like they're using Medico technology for now. PolySign update to follow, hopefully. The company launched its CBDC platform in May of last year. After that, the central bank of at least 11 countries expressed interest in using the blockchain infrastructure, with Montenegro and Georgia committing to pilots. We also saw Palau. We saw many others. And we've actually heard Ripple tout conversations of some level with dozens of central banks. Now, can it help them avoid inflation? Sure, that's understandable. Talks about Zimbabwe, basically offering tokenized gold to back their system. But this is where this gets interesting, because it says Ripple's infrastructure could enable government-issued currency to transact on its ledger. This tender could be backed by tokenized versions of physical assets that can be the digital versions of the gold bars previously used by the US and touted by current central banks. For example, they say Zimbabwe's central bank announced a new measure to link its currency to gold. We understand that. And we are watching other countries try to figure this out as well. BN Crypto has contacted Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse regarding plans for American CBDCs, but has not heard back at publication. And this is what gets so interesting, is how many partnerships are we about to see revealed on the central bank side, on the institutional side, and how many ETFs are going to be rolling out that do include XRP. They're not just going to be spot XRP ETFs. You already are going to see futures markets brought here. I'm waiting for futures to be brought to the United States in a regulated way. I would love to participate and gamble against preferably Bitcoin and other cryptos. So I like having some room to make some money and on the futures. But in the meantime, we wait for the United States to pass regulations. But in the meantime, right, we're watching dozens of partnerships with central banks, hundreds of partnerships with institutions, thousands of pre-allocation contracts and some sort of distribution contracts worked out, unveiled by the lawsuit. A significant amount of Ripple's revenue that they generate is from selling XRP. How can you sell XRP and, as folks want to say, dump XRP on the market in a way that doesn't impact price? Well, you conduct exclusively, basically and essentially over-the-counter transactions that are off the public order books through central exchange partnerships and other market maker partnerships. And you do so in a way that's essentially over-the-counter. And you do so in a way that, basically stays in a network, an on-demand liquidity network of your partners that are part of your broader Ripple payments network that you've created. XRP liquidity, XRP ledger just being one part of the equation. The stable coin that Ripple's issuing is another part of that. Another part that gets added to our bullish thesis for XRP is the ETFs. There's going to be multiple ETFs. Now, as we showed you in the update earlier today, the Van Eck, head of digital assets, it's funny how everybody laughs and squirms around when they're asked about XRP. When any institutional player, from the IMF to Van Eck to anybody, is asked about XRP, the way that they squirm, the way that they smile, the way that they laugh it off as if it's some joke. Well, it's no joke to be listed with an index, a benchmark reference rate on the CME group in the CF benchmark, which is exactly what just got announced today, folks. Take a look at this one from Brad Garlinghouse, retweeting the CME group. And he says the first step towards institutional crypto products is to have a trusted benchmark reference rate. It's nice to see the CME group and CF benchmarks collaborate on this for an XRP index. The market has spoken. Wait, hold up. But the Van Eck, head of digital assets, told me that they don't have conviction in XRP. They don't see the value in XRP. They don't have enough counterparties to trade in XRP, even though XRP's already been listed back on most exchanges. Many futures markets are already live, except in the US. The market has spoken. Brad Garlinghouse is correct. Starting July 29th, benefit from transparent pricing on two new cryptocurrencies as the CME CF Internet Computer Dollar and XRP Dollar reference rates and real-time indices, are added to our expanding suite of benchmarks. This is ICP and XRP listed on the CME group, is the world's leading derivatives marketplace. This is not some random cryptocurrency exchange. This is not some little offshoot platform. The leading derivatives marketplace is now listing an XRP US dollar pair. It is game on, folks. For the ICP army, is there any ICP army in the chat or whatever you guys call yourselves? Or maybe you just invested in ICP. You're not part of any army. You're not part of any group. You just think you're going to make some money. That's great. That's respectable. I respect that a lot. Because maybe, there was some hype in ICP. I don't know. What I do know is that the CME and the CF benchmark are listing them on their platforms. And the CF benchmarks is the first FCA regulated by the UK, FCA regulated benchmark administrator, powering the CME group crypto futures, massive platform. And so these are the platforms that are setting the benchmark rate that these ETFs are using. So what Brad's showing you is that the ETFs are on the way. Now remember, you can add commodities, currencies, trading strategies. You can create whatever you want into a fund, essentially. If you want to, your trading strategy, for example, there's an ETF for breakfast. You can invest in eggs, bacon, and sausage. And that's an ETF. You can invest in commodities, corn, soy, oil. You can invest in currency ETFs, trading strategy, you name it. So there are people that are trying to deny and say that ETFs aren't coming. No, they are. They think that XRP can't be an ETF because it's not a security. No, you can put commodities and currencies in an ETF. What is XRP? By my definitions and by the standard definitions that we work with existing on the books, it's a currency and a commodity. It's similar to gold. It has the same properties and structures of a commodity, and it also behaves like a currency. And there are crazies that do hold it as a reserve currency on their balance sheet. I am guilty of that. Why? Because despite the distractions in the space, despite all the nonsense taking place, despite the space correcting, having a significant correction right now, stablecoins like Tether being delisted, liquidity kind of drying up. Despite that, our fundamentals over here are still as good as it gets in this digital asset space. And the fact that Brad Garlinghouse is being tapped in, called into DC to sit at the White House roundtable. So it doesn't matter who's elected, doesn't matter who's in power. We have relations with everybody, with each administration that's been in the White House. We've been trying to talk with our senators in the House, the Congress, to actually pass legislation. This town hall, Brad Garlinghouse gets called up. There was a few other players from crypto, including Circle, Dante Disparte. I think there might have been maybe a couple others. There's big, investors like Scaramucci, who's, got a big portion of their portfolio is in Bitcoin. Incredibly bullish on Bitcoin, right? Trump's going to be speaking at the Bitcoin conference that's taking place coming up here in Nashville. And that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. Just as far as the direction that we're now heading, as far as crypto becoming mainstream. It's over, guys. I mean, this is the moment. The dipping of the toes that we've seen so far as ETFs, as far as starting to use any of this for real utility, we've just been dipping our toes in the water. We're about to jump in. It might not happen till next year. And the rally for crypto is probably going to start before next year, right? I anticipate that we correct and maybe bottom out between now and the election. And in crypto, the good news is that we rip the Band-Aid off. So we're going to rip the Band-Aid off, and then we're going to be able to start to build back up and move all the way through a broader liquidity cycle that comes in through the end of this year into next year. Now, I see that Stu did drop us a big one here. Stu, I appreciate you. Keeping it real, Zach, helping the community. That's what we're here to do. I see we got XRP, QFS team up in here. Mel, good to see you, brother. Appreciate you guys. Big session tonight. Let's take some Q&A. I want to know what you guys think about the solution. I've been asking, what's a better solution? We've seen that central banks are stacking more gold than they have in 50 plus years, so they're going to gold. But the ability for these countries, especially in Africa, the African continent, full of resources, producing so many commodities, resources that we need, and then we're going to need more of. And see, there's a beautiful exchange that can happen while we bring these countries online, right? While we beam down the internet from Elon's satellites, while we literally put the internet in their hands and help build infrastructure in these areas, they have valuable commodities to offer as well. How do we truly get on a level playing field? When you tokenize these assets in an effort of transparency, which is what I think everybody should be leaning into. This is your competitive advantage. This is what Ripple's been doing. Industry-leading transparency. And so this is what countries and central banks should be doing. I'm not going to debate whether or not we should have a central bank in this episode. You guys know how I feel about that. But the point being, whether it's a CBDC or a stable coin, which Ripple's setting the standard for right now, right? Ripple's setting the standard for not only a stablecoin on the XRP ledger, but for the broader cryptocurrency space to show how this gets done with custodians on the back end, full offering in-house. They don't have to rely on anybody. They don't have to, they have the license now for a trust company in New York. It's game over. It's game over. They have the money transmitter license, just like X is now got over like 30. Ripple actually has, over, I believe, over 40 money transmitter license for the states. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at the licenses that Standard Custody had, because I'm interested to know what other jurisdictions Standard Custody and Trust had received licenses for. That's going to be very interesting to go back and look on. In fact, I don't have my sticky note. I need to jot that down right now. There we go. Comments, questions, if you guys haven't already, can we smash it for me? Greatly appreciate you guys. If you're new here, make sure you guys subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our updates. I already dropped a couple updates earlier today. Got a fresh one that's going to be dropping tomorrow morning for you guys. We went through the full suite here of current events, financial markets, XRP, the solution, Ripple, the only player that's actually being called up that has this solution. See, Circle has USDC, and that's powerful. That's why Circle's being called up, is because that these private stablecoins is how we save the US dollar. Is saying, here's more US dollar exposure to the rest of the world that although they want to get away, it's still so convenient to stay tapped into the Western world and to use US dollars. Countries that are trying to get away from it. Well, how do you do so? And how do you have interoperability? This is once again where the neutral bridge currency role comes in. But Ripple also, with the issuance of that stablecoin, it's the 1-2 punch that Circle doesn't have. Circle doesn't have a neutral bridge currency. It has USDC. You have a counterparty, that's Circle, and Circle has a counterparty, that's the US government. Now, if we're supposed to just believe everything they tell us, well, then we would just believe that, you know, we're always going to get paid back on those US bonds, and we should be thrilled to get 4% on a 10-year bond when we know inflation's at 3%. According to the CPI lie, inflation's still at 3%, core's at 3.3%, but yet we should be willing to take on a deal with the US government for 10 years at 4.3%. Thank you very much, but I will pass on that opportunity. And I think that I'll stack some utility with no counterparty risk. This is exactly what separates Ripple, is you have the neutral bridge currency. And you can get access to XRP and not have any counterparty risk yourself. Now, if you want to get a large sum of XRP, well, then who do you call? Well, you call Ripple. And Ripple has been known to give discounts to big players who show up and are willing to do big deals, like R3 that tried to get 5 billion XRP. It's like everybody forgets this. Everybody forgets that XRP took the 2 spot. Everybody forgets that R3 tried to get 5 freaking billion. This is not a game. This is not a joke. Hey, Dennis, I see you dropped a super chat. Appreciate you for coming in. Maxine Waters told us yesterday, secret meeting between Dems and big banks. They are trying to take over the exchanges. Also, when Ken Griffin, CME, blesses you, it's done. Don't listen to smaller Van Eck. And this is why I said, where can I short Van Eck? Because I'm serious. I mean, if I trusted the stock market, it's so rigged that I assume not playing. I mean, if I'm going to go to a rigged casino, I'll just go to crypto, right? If I'm going to go gamble, I'm going to go to crypto, right? It's a very simple choice. It's like when I go to the casino, I play craps, and that's all I'll ever play. I haven't played craps in years, but, you know, back in my day, I would go roll the dice because at least, you know, it felt like you had somewhat of a little bit of control. Not really. It's still, you know, but it is the best odds in the casino. Right? When it comes to speculating now, well, if I'm going to do so, it's going to be on crypto. But when it comes to speculating, I actually have always remained fundamental and technical when we look at acquiring our position. And then just understanding the basics on technical analysis so I can know when to sell. Combining that with the sentiment and the psychology of the markets, what I'm seeing on X, what I'm seeing on the social media, and that's my analysis. That's how I decide where it's going next. But Dennis, you're 100% correct. They want to keep us away from DeFi, and they want to keep us away from being our own custodians. Those are the two kickers right there. They want to be the middleman between us and DeFi, right? And they don't want us to be our custodians, which the two kind of go hand in hand. right? When you're your own custodian and you use these simple toolkits, look at the Zaman wallet for the XRP ledger. Very simple. One of the best apps that I've ever had as far as crypto experience. It's just simple. It does what you want it to do. And then look at these AMM platforms that are coming out that are making it so simple, right? This is what we need for mass adoption. But this is what they're trying to control before they give us the regulations that lead to the mass adoption. Simple. And so we're at the point now where they're shooting their last shot. This is bars shutting down, clubs shutting down. They put on that throwback classic track. I'm trying to think of this song. What's the one? Return of the Mac. Depending on which establishment, depending on which fine establishment you're at, they put on Return of the Mac. They put on something. It's shutting down. You better make your move now, or you're going to miss it. That's what these politicians are doing. All right, this is the last chance to rein this thing in through regulations. We're demanding them. The world's already ahead of us. And the US is finally going to pass them. It's just, we know who we're up against. These people are bought and paid for by these special interest groups that have lined their pockets. Why are they all coming out in full panic of Basel III endgame? Because the banks are telling the politicians that they can't handle Basel III collateral requirements, that they're not ready to go to a more transparent system, that they want to be able to gamble at leverage and levels far beyond our comprehension, even without being backed, without being tracked. And they don't want to be responsible. They don't want to be accountable. And they want to know that the FDIC, our Federal Reserve, along with Secretary of Treasury, is there to back up the system when it fails once again. Because they know how painful it's going to be to actually go to Basel III requirements. And what was Jerome Powell saying? He was saying, well, we are hearing you guys. We know, we've talked to the banksters. And we've talked to you guys. We hear you guys sounding the alarm. Everybody's worried. We're not going to speak on any specifics, but we are still talking and debating how we should roll into Basel III. Now, the broader banking system on the world is already actually talking about Basel IV. They're actually, some of them are ready to move on. They're wondering, why are we still behind? As this system implodes and gets exposed, you have to understand the level of value transfer that's going to take place. And we started to see it today. We might have already seen the top in the markets for the Magnificent Seven. The top of the Magnificent Seven might have been today, where we get our first inflation reading month over month down. Get this. Month over month, inflation is down by 0.1%. In actuality, it was down by 0.05. They round up to 0.1. Everything that they put out is a bold-faced lie. And they literally bring inflation down month over month by 0.1%, and this is a victory. And this guarantees September rate cuts. But when you look at the year over year, it's still at 3%. When you look at core, it's still at 3.3, 3.4%. Let me pull it up and fact check myself right now. What did we get? Remember, we get producer price index tomorrow. 3.3 for core. That's right. The expectation for core was 3.4. We're still well above the 2% target. And even the Fed Chair Jerome Powell is admitting that he's not waiting around for the 2% target. They are going to move before we get to 2%. The month over month drops by 0.1%. And what happens? This signifies a rate cut, right? Markets should be going up, right? Everybody told me it's going to be risk on when the Fed cuts, right? Magnificent Seven wipe out $600 billion of market cap vanishing into thin air. As I've been saying, market cap a figment of your imagination. and market cap bros also irresponsibly and wrongfully using market cap valuation exclusively for cryptocurrency. It should be applied. It's one valuation metric and data point to look at, but it should be added to alongside a liquidity value equation that you need to solve for, that you need to plug in on your valuation model for an asset like XRP. Dennis, I see you dropped another one. There is talk among certain players, I'm not going to mention that, Ripple Medico standard custody will take the place of the Fed. RLUSD keeps the dollar right where it is. Dennis, this is the point, is that when the United States, this is what they should be rolling out right now, is stablecoin legislation that allows third-party issuers to issue US dollar stablecoins, but just provide rules of the road. You need to be one-to-one backed by cash or cash equivalents, which they're probably going to say is going to be T-bills, right? Market fund. So basically cash equivalents. And so as long as you have that, you're good to go. And what that does is it allows Circle, it allows Ripple, it would allow Tether and Bitfinex to maybe try to come into compliance. They're being delisted in Europe right now on all of the exchanges in Europe. Most of them, or at least some, have delisted Tether. I don't know if all have. Can anybody let me know? Is Europe in the chat tonight? Europe might be sleeping, or they're about to wake up maybe. Can Europe let me know in the chat, is Tether delisted on all of the exchanges in Europe, or has it just been like Uphold? I thought that there was a couple others that were delisting it as well. What's going on with Tether on European exchanges? I saw that the European stablecoin issued by Tether was also being delisted on some exchanges too. But the point that I was saying is that if they pass the stablecoin legislation, it allows way more liquidity to come into US dollar derivatives via stablecoins that get people around the world back into US dollars. So instead of holding US dollar treasuries where they have to wait to get paid out, 3 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or even longer on the bonds, what they can get exposure to is short-term T-bills or basically stable coins that are just going to be one-to-one back completely. They're free. They have that liquidity and they have that access to the US dollar without having to have extended currency exposure risk. And I'm talking about the risk provided by the bonds. Instead of holding the bonds, they can just hold stable coins. Stable coins are backed by the bonds, though. This is how you keep the reserve currency status. And so they need to get their ducks in a row. And what role will the Fed play? Well, the Fed is that backstop that's still there, that's still providing liquidity through different forms of programs. And they were put under the direction of the Treasury back under Trump's term. And they actually did a partnership with BlackRock to be able to buy back and manage and be the custodian for these funds that they created, these programs that they created during 2020 to be able to backstop the system. This led all the way to the program last year that started the Bank Term Funding Program. These are all Fed backstops. So it's like the Fed is still in its current role there to backstop the system and to print money, even if it's injection in digital form via stimulus checks, from the Treasury. We all know where it comes from, right? But the point being is that the Fed, alongside all of these other issuers, are going to keep the US dollar going in some form or fashion. There are, legislation that's being considered to actually question the Fed, the role of the Fed, to audit the Fed. We should at least get an audit. Some would suggest that we should get rid of them. Constitutionally, the role of the Treasury was to be in control of monetary policy and the issuance of currency. The Federal Reserve, remember, is just an entity that's only been around for a little over 100 years. So this is a new experience in the overall U.S. republic that we live within. This is the constitutional history, of course, that they don't teach in school anymore. This is why people don't understand what real value is anymore. This is why we continue to stack it as long as they're going to be sleeping and they're going to give us these prices. XRP at 40 cents. Silver We were able to stack it sub 30 for the past, 3-4 years. Gold, we were able to scoop up gold, even sub 2,000 just within the past few years. Here we are, gold pumping today, silver pumping today, and the stock market falling off. Cryptocurrency started with a pump, then it fell off. Let's take a look at it and continue to drop your comments and questions down below. I'll take some more Q&A. 57,100 is where we're at right now, but earlier today we were at 59.5. We're down to 57.1 right now. Let me check your comments, questions. Thank you for dropping them down below. Dennis, appreciate the love, appreciate the super chat. Many small to medium banks too weak to meet Basel. Yep. They will be absorbed. Then they hit the hyperspace button for XRP. And that's the thing. Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon's licking his lips, getting ready for this opportunity. Can I do a video on MAG? That's the magnetic token. That's the token that I added to the AMM on my last update. How to XRP AMM. Watching that project, but I will provide an update. Louise, thank you for that question. I'll write that down in my notes right now. I'll do a review of magnetic token. Gold and silver, though. Let's take a look. Where did gold close off? 2408. Okay, but gold went all the way up to 2,423. Massive green candle today. This is the Friday candle. This is the daily chart. On the daily, the Friday candle has already started. It closed off 2,408. But Thursday, July 11th, we went all the way up to 2,424. Silver, all the way up to 31.75. Basically, yeah, 31.75 for silver. Massive, massive move. The DXY fell off all the way down to 104 after being up above 105 just earlier this week. Earlier this week, it had climbed back up 105. Crypto was cooling off, but then today they reversed roles. DXY fell off. Bitcoin did pump initially on the CPI release up to 59.5, but then it closed out and now we're down here at 57,000. Now, what have I been saying here about this structure down here? We already achieved a triple tap. We've now done a double tap above 59,000 up to 59.5. Okay. Is that strength? Well, was this strength right here? When Bitcoin was trading down here, went all the way to 58,500, and then it traded between 60 and 62, right? Was this move to 63,800 strength? Yeah, on the day of, that was cool. And then we get cleaned out once again. This is why I'm worried. I don't see much strength here. I don't pull up, I'm not even looking at moving averages or any indicators. But what I see is crypto leading a stock market that has started to correct as well. Now, the Dow Jones was the only index that actually performed well today, but why? You get a little bit more exposure to the micro caps. That's why. That's why the Dow Jones was up today. NASDAQ 100, a lot of tech. Big red candle. Big red candle. Down 2%. S&P 500, also big red candle. Did we just top in our stock market? So here's where we're at. On the daily chart, we're zoomed out. Look at this. I mean, this thing's just gone nuts. When Bitcoin topped out at 74,000 back in March, it was right here, about March 13th, I believe, in and around that date. And then the stock market, S&P 500, topped out shortly thereafter, towards the end of the month, and then it corrected. So I'm saying that Bitcoin has been leading the broader equity market. and really the Magnificent Seven that have been in control of the S&P 500. Magnificent Seven falling off today, S&P 500, NASDAQ, both getting crushed. Apple, red candle. Tesla down 8%. Now, you go into these micro caps, these smaller, companies. The Russell 2000 is, let's see, let me pull up the indexes, the indices. Russell 2000, massive green candle. This represents the small cap stocks 2000 index, and it was up to 2,125 today. Massive green candle. So we're starting to see, remember, there's still 6 trillion of market money funds on the side ready to be deployed into these markets. And we're seeing Jeff Bezos offload 10 billion, CEO of Nvidia offload tens of millions, hundreds of millions over the last year. The directors at Nvidia offloading hundreds of millions. And what are they doing? A lot of those guys are going to cash. But then we're also seeing Wall Street and the markets start to move into the micro caps. This is why the Russell 2000 was up. S&P 500 and NASDAQ, which are more tech focused, they fell off. Dow Jones had a good day because it has some exposure to the micro caps there in that index. The typical setup here, this is exactly what we see at the end of these bubbles. When you go back and you look at the history of how these, you were dealing with different stocks during 07 and 08. You were definitely dealing with different stocks and companies during the dot-com bubble of 2000. But the relationship between these indexes, the DXY, gold and silver, very interesting. And you have to consider too that for gold and silver, these assets, it took them 10 years after the dot-com bust to actually go hit all-time high. So when things started to go bad in 01, it actually, gold and silver started to have a little bit of a rally, started to pick up. But then it took all the way until 2011 for gold and silver to top. So the commodities, I believe, are at the beginning, early innings of a much broader super cycle for commodities that I do think lasts 5 to 10 years. Whereas crypto is moving in the broader liquidity cycle of risk on, speculation, and a retail market that has more exposure to the stock market and trading than ever before. You have more people, attempting to be investors of some sort or fashion than ever before. Robinhood traders and the like, which is why I think it's so important that Robinhood, when they do list XRP, which, see, a lot of people were telling me that Robinhood was never listed XRP. I actually recall buying XRP on Robinhood first. That's how much of a rookie I was, guys. This was like 2018. And I don't know if Coinbase just didn't have it listed at the time, but I remember I bought it on Robinhood. And so Robinhood hasn't had XRP listed for a while, but the possibility of Robinhood to have XRP listed, they just acquired Bitstamp, and that deal hasn't gone through yet, but they're in the process of acquiring Bitstamp. And so it's going to be interesting to see here. More exchanges getting listed. As we showed you here, CME Group, CF Benchmark now bringing in benchmark rates for ICP and XRP. This prepares us for more ETFs. And then, as we also talked about in this episode tonight, the CBDC stablecoin solution to be able to save countries and bring them to the playing field and give them a chance. No matter what the resources are that they produce and have in the ground, the new technology is now able to show you basically what's in the ground. And this is going to bring more transparency to countries that want to say, hey, respect us on the trading field, respect us on the playing field here. We know what value we got. And now we have great liquidity and access to this, exposure to this, because we can tokenize, right? We can, like, for example, we as investors here in the United States of America could go invest in, a tokenized copper mine in some other country. It's the same thing that we've been doing. It's just in tokenized form. And what's happening now with the internet and the ability to actually, market this and bring about opportunities that you never even would have been able to hear about in our traditional system. This is the power of all of this technology coming together during this fourth industrial revolution. I'm doing my best to bring you guys content on a daily basis that ties together the boring stuff, the economic data. I have fun kind of nerding out on it and talking about these financial markets and navigating them because it's important to my thesis. And that's why I try to show that I'm not just, rambling on here for an hour, although sometimes it may seem like that. That I'm actually trying to put together this so that I can explain my thesis so you guys understand my bias, where I'm coming from, and why I'm making the moves that I am. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to me at zachrector.com. I appreciate everybody for stopping by here tonight. I've had a lot of fun with everybody. I'm going to have to wrap up this session right now, but I got a fresh update that's going to be dropping tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be starting off our Friday with a fresh update for you. I appreciate all of you guys. If you are new here, make sure you guys subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you could tap it for me, I'd greatly appreciate that. You guys stay blessed out there, and we will see you guys tomorrow for a Friday session later in the day. Till next time, God bless you all. Oh, got to make sure my mic was on. My mic's glitching out right now. Anyways, thank you for the super chat, Dennis. Appreciate you. I'll see you guys in the next one.